Hello, students. The topic today we are going to discuss is in vitro fertilization techniques, and one of the techniques is the intracytoplasmic sperm injection, including in IVF. This is the first unit of your first topic of your third unit, reproductive techniques. So, this is in vitro fertilization, which is used basically to solve the problem of infertility amongst the couples who are who are not able to conceive a baby. So what is in vitro basically? The term in vitro refers to in laboratory condition. So if a process which happens in a natural condition in biological inside the body, if it is not possible to happen, like the fusion of egg and sperm, the fusion of these two gametes to produce a baby, if it is not possible to happen due to some reason, whether it is physiological reason or morphological reason, male or female infertility, due to some reason, if this thing is not possible to happen, if the egg and the sperms are not able to fuse together to produce a healthy and a viable baby or an embryo, uh, this process is carried out in laboratory conditions, in vitro conditions, and that is the reason the technique is called as in vitro fertilization of gametes. So gametes over here is egg and sperm. So this IVF is very famous now. It is being used for solving the problem of infertility, and this is the normal procedure. What happens to couples when they realize that they cannot conceive naturally, they go to a doctor for consultation. The treatment of the mother or the female started. She's given hormonal stimulation, hormonal treatment. I'll tell you in detail what all hormones are used, why we are using hormones, what is the use of hormones, and after the hormonal treatment, hormonal course, the eggs are picked up from the ovary of the female, not from the fallopian tube. The eggs are picked up from the ovary from the female using a small operation, and then the sperm is collected from the male, and the sperm and the ovary then they are fused together in the laboratory condition. In the laboratory condition, they are fused together in a small petri plate under a microscope because the gametes are microscopic. So the gametes are fused together in the laboratory condition, and those fused gametes, when they become zygote, they are allowed for 2 to 3 days to become around 4 to 8 cell stage. And after the 4 to 8 cell stage, embryo is ready. Those embryos are transferred back in the female uterus or reproductive tract, or implanted in the female reproductive tract, and then the mother carries the baby with a normal pregnancy for 9 months. And you see, there are two babies over here. So I'll explain you why there are two babies over here, and this is the reason IVF normally results into twins. We'll come to that when we'll be discussing about the side effect of IVF. So let's start with what is the IVF and what are the hormonal treatments which are given during the IVF. Now, this is again a normal process of IVF, how it happens. So, egg has to be collected. Multiple eggs have to be collected from the female ovary. Normally, a procedure happens when one single egg is released out in a normal menstrual period, and when it reaches to the fallopian tube, in the fallopian tube over here, the sperms fuse with the egg or fertilize the egg, and then the fertilized egg or zygote comes to the uterus where it is implanted, and then the embryo develops over here. But what happens in case of IVF? Instead of one single egg, multiple eggs are collected from the ovary, and then those eggs are fused with sperms in a petri plate. So when we talk about multiple eggs, this is not natural. It has to be stimulated. The ovary has to be stimulated or hyper stimulated to be said, to produce multiple eggs in one single menstrual cycle, because the female body has to be prepared. She has to be in a sync for not only to release out egg, which is called as ovulation, but also to accept the developed embryo in the uterus. So this all thing has to be done or carried out in the laboratory condition, but multiple eggs have to be produced by the ovary itself. And for that, the ovary is given hormonal treatment. understand this, once the embryos are formed, those embryos are then again implanted in the uterus. Or if they are not implanted, they are frozen for further use. So they are cryopreserved so that they can be used in future for implantation. So this is one new technique that we can cryopreserve embryos also. In humans, it is not practiced yet, but in case of animal husbandry, in case of cattle, it is a very common practice. Cryopreserved embryos. So let's come to the hormonal treatment. See, for multiple ovulation, or for, in case of a normal ovulation, two hormones are very important. One is the follicle stimulating hormone or FSH, which is called as follicle stimulating hormone. The role of FSH over here is to stimulate the ovary to go for the formation of the ovum. And LH or luteinizing hormone is over here responsible for stimulating the ovary to release out the ovum. Now, these two hormones play a very important role. FSH is given means it is hyper stimulated. The ovary is hyper stimulated with the FSH to stimulate the follicle growth, and because we require multiple eggs, the amount of FSH in a female body is very high. And once the female gets that high dose of FSH, her ovaries start producing multiple eggs, not one but two or three, or more than three, sometimes four also. But we don't require LH. The ovum or the eggs has to be collected from the ovary and not from the fallopian tube. So LH has to be stopped. LH should not be given, or LH level has to be lowered down. So for that, a second hormone is used. Another hormone is used. Another factor is used, which is called as the GnRH, or which is called as the gonadotropin releasing hormone antagonistic, which acts on the pituitary gland, and over there in the pituitary gland it stops the secretion of LH. So LH level is lowered down so that the ovum is matured itself in the ovary. Now till the maturation of the ovum, they are not released out. Ovulation is prolonged so that they can be collected directly from the ovary and not from the fallopian tube. This is very important because once it is released out in the fallopian tube, it may not be possible for them to collect it. So to collect it properly, to collect the ovum, mature ovum, they are collected from the ovary directly. And to prevent the ovulation, LH level has to be brought down. And for that, gonadotropin releasing hormone antagonistic hormone is given to the patient so that it acts on the pituitary gland and it stops or lowers down the LH level. Now, once it happens, once the ovulation is stopped, now, but we need to require to pace up the maturation of the ovum in the ovary. For that, why we require to mature the eggs before collection? Because see, matured egg only accepts. Now, what is matured egg? Those eggs which are ready to accept these sperms are called as mature eggs. So those eggs which are mature, they will fuse with the sperm to form a successful embryo. And to make the ovum mature in the ovary itself, another hormone is used known as human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, or HCG, which we call as normally human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. This human chorionic gonadotropin hormone acts on the receptors of the LH. So instead of LH, HCG is used, which stimulates the receptor of the LH, and that in a cascade mechanism matures the ovums. So once the ovums are matured, now the ovums are collected from the ovary with a small operation, a small surgical operation with the help of small laparoscopic operation, and those ovums are now kept in the petri dish. At the time of that, because the woman uterus has to be prepared for the further uh, pregnancy, or to further prepare the uterus for carrying the pregnancy, or to accept the embryo, or the another hormone is just injected in a body, that is progesterone and estrogen. These two hormones prepare the uterus of the lady. This is like mimicking the luteinizing hormones. The luteinizing hormones because the corpus luteum hormones, which those hormones which corpus luteum which secrete out progesterone, those corpus luteum hormones are given to the female body so that she will her body will be ready to accept the developing embryo. At the same time, those collected eggs are fertilized in vitro condition or in the laboratory condition with the sperm. See, this is another picturization of how hormones are given. FSH is given for stimulating the follicle to release out the, to generate the ovum, as well as the LH uh, is given, or HCG is given to trigger the release of the or maturation of the ovum. During the treatment, the estrogen level till the ovum is collected is high. Once the ovum is collected, the estrogen level lowers down and the progesterone level is increased. So that now the female body will be ready to accept the embryo. At the same time, those collected eggs are fused with the sperm, and those fused fertilized eggs now become zygote from one cell to two, two to four or eight, and then after 3 days, those selected embryos, properly selected embryos, are then transferred in the uterine lining of the intrauterine lining of the female. That is the uh, embryo transfer or embryo implantation technique. Once the embryo is implanted or transferred in the uterus, uh, the progesterone injection is carried forward for some period, and after that the injections are stopped. Once the injections are stopped, the female body itself is now keeping up the pregnancy and maintaining the pregnancy. So that is how for 11 days and for around 15 weeks or more than 15 weeks, the woman has to be kept under treatment, under hormonal treatment. And once the after the 11th day of the plantation, once the pregnancy test comes positive, the woman is now discharged from the hospital. The treatment is over. But after that, once the treatment is over, the pregnancy has to be maintained, which is a normal pregnancy which happens. Here, in case of in vitro fertilization in the Petri plate, uh, there is two types of methods used. Either the uh, ovum which is kept in the Petri plate is released with sperm, or you can say sperm solution is released on the unfertilized eggs. So the sperms naturally comes to the ovum, attracted to the ovum, and they fertilize the egg. Suppose due to certain things, due to certain problem, these sperms are not able to penetrate the egg, so there won't be any fertilization. So here comes another technique which is used known as ICSI, or intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So we'll come to that intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So first of all, in case of IVF, are there any side effects to IVF? Yes, there are side effects to IVF. There's the biggest side effect to IVF is called as ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. This happens due to the use of those human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, or HCG. Now, what happens due to HCG? HCG is used to stimulate the maturation of eggs, but HCG has a longer duration of action. It is there in the body, or it acts for more than a week, more than 1 week. And once the HCG is there, other than the maturation of the ovum, HCG, when it is acting, it can also act, or it can also result in overstimulation of the ovaries. So if the ovaries are overstimulated, they release out a certain thing which is called as vascular endothelial growth factor, or which is also called as VEGF, vascular endoplasmic growth factor. And this chemical, or this substance which is secreted by the overstimulated ovary, that makes the blood vessels in the body leaky. Normally, in case of blood vessel, the blood doesn't come out, or the fluid doesn't come out of the blood vessel. But in presence of vascular endothelial growth factor, the fluid starts coming out from the blood vessel. And due to that, it causes leakage of the fluid in the uh, area where the normally fluid is not present, such as the abdominal cavity, such as the lungs, or if the blood is not present in the blood vessel, sometimes the kidney may function. So if the abdominal cavity gets too much of fluid, that condition, in that condition, the abdomen gets swelling, and that is called as ascites or ascites. So in case of lungs, if the lungs are filled up with fluid, then the person is not able to, or the lady is not able to breathe properly. She suffers from shortness of breath. That is called a pleural infusion. Or sometimes the kidneys are not functioning properly because there is no blood in the blood vessels, because the blood vessels have become leaky now. Sometimes the ovary becomes so swelled, the swelling of the ovaries lead to twisting of the ovary. That condition is called as ovarian torsion. So these are all the side effects of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. The symptoms of this syndrome is nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, abdominal swelling, and as I said, breathing difficulties due to the pleural infusion. Pleural infusion is nothing but the lung cavity, or uh, the lung alveoli are filled up with fluid. So that is the one case. Another side effect of the IVF is, now we'll come back to those, that first picture where we saw that at the end the couple had two babies. What happens? This IVF technique is very costly. Right? The doctors are taking too much of money, uh, and for that they need to give a kind of a guarantee to the couple that the process is going to be 100% successful. That the the couple are going to get the baby. For that, what they do, so more than one egg was collected. Say, for example, three eggs were collected, all three were fertilized, all three were converted into embryos, and all three embryos were then implanted in the uterus. So that at least one of the embryo will be successfully like developing. And for that reason, what happens if all the three embryos, or out of three, or two embryos are implanted in the successfully implanted and separated by the woman's uterus, the couple gets, instead of one, they get twins or sometimes triplets. That type of condition is called as multiple pregnancy. That is called as multiple pregnancy, and it's not good for the lady's health, because it's very um, tedious, or it becomes very hectic for the woman to have two babies, twins or triplets. So instead of one baby, one embryo, the woman has now two or three embryos in her body, and she has to support her. So that was the side effect of IVF. But normally, this is a very say a noble type of technique to solve the problem of the couples who are suffering from infertility issue. Now we'll come to one technique which is called the intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Now suppose the normal technique, the natural technique of fertilization in the petri plate in case of IVF is not possible. The sperms are somehow not able to penetrate the egg. Then an small injection, a small tube known as a micropipette is used to penetrate the egg and release out a single sperm in the center of the egg, so that the gametes will be fused, or the sperm is able to fertilize it. This type of technique is called as intracytoplasm. Intracytoplasm because the needle is penetrating the egg and the outer egg layer, egg gut membrane, and releasing out this sperm in the cytoplasm of the egg. That's why intracytoplasmic sperm injection. But why do we need this type of intracytoplasmic sperm injection? See, this is one more process. If suppose normal fertilization process is not able to happen, intracytoplasmic sperm injections are used, and after that, for 2 to 5 days, the eggs are made to grow and develop, and those embryos are selected and then transferred to the uterus of the female, and then the embryo grows. So, why do we need ICSI or intracytoplasmic sperm injection? The first reason is male infertility. Now, the cause for male infertility could be anything. It could be due to sperm motility. The sperms are not motile enough. Sperm motility may be one cause, or it could be the azoospermia, the number of sperms are very low, or it could be there is some problem with the sperm, it cannot penetrate due to the ectosomal cap is not functional, it is not able to penetrate the outer egg envelope, or the number of sperms are low, or the numbers are not motile, or the sperms are not able to locate the egg. So there could be many different causes to solve those problems. Male infertility problem. The sperms are not able to locate the egg, or the sperms are not somehow not able to meet the egg or penetrate the egg. To solve those problems, we require ICSI or intracytoplasmic sperm injection technique, or it can be also used for previously frozen eggs. Suppose the eggs are frozen earlier. Now we are going to do the artificial insemination. Artificial insemination is suppose the eggs are frozen or sometimes the sperms are frozen. This happens in case of animal husbandry. The If we have a proper or a good progeny of a particular cattle, the sperms of that cattle are collected and kept frozen for a very longer time. And from for years together, new generations or new progeny of that same cattle can be got. The individual cattle can be kept, and this is called as the frozen gametes. So instead of freezing of the or cryopreservation of the embryo, we also have cryopreservation of the gametes. So if those gametes which were cryopreserved means frozen, they can, if they are used after many years, they are used for the in vitro fertilization, or when we inseminate the egg, artificial insemination. At that time, we there is a requirement of, suppose after artificial insemination. In case of artificial insemination, the sperms are not motile enough now for after very long time. At that time, we can use this type of technique or ICSI. So this was about the ICSI technique. Okay. Now, what what are the chances of an ICSI technique to work? Will ICSI work? Yes, ICSI can work. Around 50 to 80% chances of the working of ICSI is possible. There is a chance that 50 to 80% uh, the technique will work and there will be fertilization. Yes, but there are certain important things which could happen. Like say for example, some or all the eggs may be dead because they are penetrating the egg cytoplasm. So there is a chance that the penetrated egg cytoplasm may, or during that process, the egg may suffer physical damage, and due to physical damage, the egg may not grow. It might not grow into an embryo even after the injection of this sperm due to physical damage, due to certain improper technique, or due to some improper protocol. It's not followed properly. So it is possibility that the embryo may stop growing. That the possibility only 20%, but 50 to 80% there are chances that the ICSI will work. So that was about ICSI and IVF, and we will have another video